It's time to set the skies ablaze. The Captain Commander has set foot on the battlefield and already there are casualties, and it's freaking awesome. A fiery episode filled with death, carnage, and a lot of surprises. So let's get into what you missed, the manga comparisons and breakdowns. My name is Kyle, and if I didn't say this before, since we will be covering the latest episode of Bleach and its manga chapters, spoilers ahead. This week's episode follows the trend of using 6 chapters to cover its runtime. For episode 5, the manga chapters used would be 500 to 505, which is roughly about 417 panels and 103 pages. So let's see what's been adapted and which have been left out in the dust. We start out at the beginning of chapter 500, when the Sudenko were placed near Renji and some of the other captains. These are communication devices used by the research and development team. But right away, we do see some panels that weren't adapted. One where the team was just about to set the swords, and then after when Kyoraku's Sternritter would shoot one of them down. But we get right back into the mix right after, with the message of Ichigo being on his way to the Soul Society. One thing the anime did here was one of the panels that were adapted. Instead of just hearing the narration, we would actually see the face of who's talking. And also, during the reactions of the other captains, Ryunosuke's reaction would have been missing from the anime as well. And then we would skip over to Akon, but the anime did add some extra scenes here showing the research and development team commenting before we take a look at Akon's reaction to not sensing Ichigo's spiritual pressure anymore. For this scene, a few things are different from the manga. If we skip ahead a couple panels, Ichigo is hearing what Akon said about sending the remote team to the Senkaimon, and then boom, a huge crash is heard. However, in the anime, we actually see Akon say this directly before the research and development team is attacked by Jidanbo. We also see a strange figure in the back seemingly controlling him before the anime would switch over to Ichigo. In the manga, we actually got an extended view of what happened. It seems when Jidanbo had attacked, the research and development team had launched a counterattack only to be turned against each other by a Quincy's special ability, right before it shows the Quincy in the background. Additionally, the manga didn't have this eye thingy. Now back to Ichigo being trapped and alerting Akon. We would need to backtrack a little bit on the panels to see how this lines up in the anime, but this is at the same time it shows his full reaction to what's happening in the Soul Society, being overwhelmed by all the screams and despair, before trying to attack and trying to escape once more. This is where the anime would also show us a scene of Rukia, although within the manga it was only one panel that had no dialogue. Does anyone think the title Wrath of Lightning doesn't fit with how the titles have looked so far? Looks like my 2-year-old came up with the design, but this would also be the title of manga chapter 504. Seems Kilgay is very impressed with his Sternritter ability. Seems the J stands for jail, which means that the jails that he creates can't be broken that easily, and His Majesty was the one who designated him as such. The anime follows the manga right up to where Kisuke is held at sword point, the only deviation being the anime showing the shocked responses of Chad, Orihime, and Kisuke after Kilgay is cut in two and his body flops to the ground. Kisuke's shocked face would be the end of manga chapter 500, titled Rescuer in the Deep Dark. We head back in at Ichigo's frustration. The manga chapter would be 501 and titled Here, Fear, Here. The anime switches over to Byakuya's fight. However, in the manga, we had a little bit more runtime with this scene, with Ichigo now realizing that Kisuke was disconnected and him trying to get in touch with Kisuke once more. After that, the manga catches up with the anime at Byakuya's fight. The anime gives us some extended dialogue with Byakuya saying that Renji's Bankai is their last hope. Can't even say that with a straight face. Before noticing that his hand is shaking. In the manga, he notices his hand was shaking, yes, but there was a difference in the anime in that he was holding his sword. His conversation with the Sternritter would pretty much follow the same as in the manga, up to the point where he attacks the Sternritter. In the manga, it clearly shows Byakuya's sword connecting, but in the anime, he dodged this move. At this point, he starts hallucinating and you would see Rukia's face melt off, which was terrifying to say the least. And then he is impaled to what I believe to be his chest. The manga chapter would end once the Sternritter hits him with his Bankai for the first time. And the anime took point in the animation here as well. Oh, the mighty have fallen. This would be the start of manga chapter 502, aptly titled Falling Cherry Blossoms, to foreshadow the doom that's about to befall our flower petal captain, one of the strongest, Byakuya Kuchiki. Renji tries his best to take on Ass Node, only to be hit with his captain's Bankai and then to be kicked into another life by Nacho Libre. Then Byakuya would be killed off. One thing that I didn't mention in this sequence of events is Rukia being so concerned about her brother that she literally in the middle of battle turned tail and ran. But what did you expect to happen? Now she's lying there, more than likely dead. Anyways, the manga and the anime would follow the same path right up to when the scene switches over to His Majesty being confronted by Kenpachi, who just carved up 3 Sternritter all by his lonesome. In the manga, we get a few words from the Sternritter saying that it seems that Byakuya is dead, but in the anime he remains stoic until Kenpachi arrives. Did I say that Kenpachi is my favorite character as yet? Right after His Majesty takes a look at Kenpachi, this would be where manga chapter 502 would end, and when the Sternritter identifies him would be the beginning of manga chapter 503, titled Wrath as Lightning. This manga chapter would also see the highest conversion rate to anime, in that more than 98% of its panels were adapted. So not much deviation, but still, let's cover what happened within this chapter. Kenpachi would have taken on 3 Sternritter and had killed all 3. The giant monkey got sliced in 2, the other guy got his throat ripped out, and the final guy got impaled. But Kenpachi was out for more blood, and so he took on His Majesty. But wouldn't you know it, his attack is blocked. Then we switch over to Ichigo, feeling the despair of everyone that were not only defeated, but were killed in battle as well. He lashes out in rage, trying to break from Kilge's prison, but to no avail. But at the end of the scene, it seems that something might have happened with his power. Before we could find out, we then head over to Akon arriving at the Senkaimon team. I'm not sure, but I don't see this anywhere within the other chapters, so I would just consider it as anime exclusive scenes. Then we head on over to Hisagi as he confronts Chojiro's killer, and then the Captain Commander would show up. This would be the end of manga chapter 503. Now at the start of manga chapter 504, we would see Sternritter O'Driscoll finally use Chojiro's Bankai against the Captain Commander. But he didn't know that Genryusai has a trump card, the power of friendship. He would take a walk down memory lane and then utterly murder the Sternritter with extreme prejudice. This would be the end of manga chapter 504, titled Beyond Thunder. In all honesty, this Sternritter was full of it and he needed a good punishment. I just didn't think he would be sent to the deepest depths of hell and the fastest train known to man. Oh well, let's move on. So within this manga chapter, there were a few noticeable differences. One would be the Captain Commander would be struck twice by Chojiro's Bankai, but right after the first strike, Shuhei would try to rush in and protect the Captain Commander, only to realize that he's got this fight locked and didn't really need any help. Now we begin the events of the final chapter that would be adapted in this episode, 505, titled Fire. We see Captain Commander walking away from a huge fiery explosion as if he was in an action movie and he's the main character. He then walks up to Hisagi and let him know it's time to bring the real shit, and then takes off like an interstellar ballistic missile ready to clap some cheeks. One thing that was missing here was Hisagi being blown away by the sheer awesomeness of the Captain Commander taking off. And the anime would continue with the shocked reactions of all the other captains as now they get their second win. The anime also skipped out on Omaida asking Soifun what's wrong, as if he can't sense the commander's rage. It's incredible how engulfed in flames he is. And we move over to Kyoraku as he's decided it's time to battle as well. But the one thing that was skipped here was his Sternritter's shocked face. This is where the episode would end, but it seems that in the outtakes, we would get a few more panels, so let's cover them. Now we see the aftermath of Kenpachi's attack on Yhwach. Right before he should silence Kenpachi, the Captain Commander would pop up, or rather, comes in for a fiery landing. But the anime would once again skip out a few panels here, when the Sternritter had made comments on Kenpachi's rank. Now we get a glimpse of the fight that we've been hyping up for a while now. Captain Commander Genryusai Yamamoto versus the king of all Quincy's, Yhwach. This will be a glorious fight to the death as a Captain Commander has come seeking nothing less than blood and death. And this is where the episode would end. Tune in next week for Bleach episode 6 titled Fire. This is where the manga chapter 505 would also end. Pretty stellar episode. I can't wait for the next episode, so let's just get to the numbers and see what was adapted and what was left out. Bleach episode 4 roughly covered 6 manga chapters, with each having an average of 17 pages, adding up to 103 pages in all. Each page having an average of around 69 panels, all adding up to 417 panels, with 57 of those panels being unique or not adapted, which means only 360 panels were adapted, which gives us a split of roughly about 86.33% versus 13.67%. If you didn't see my last video that I posted on the manga breakdowns, here you go, click and enjoy. So let me know what you think and leave a like on your way out. Also, I'm leaving a Zanpakuto in the comments for all those who comment. Subscribe, we're trying to get to 3,000 subs and it would be greatly appreciated. Peace out and stay safe out there, V Nation. Bye.